Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're being asked to find the distance between 2 points. Now, when you get into algebra, there is a distance formula. That distance formula is going to be Now, don't worry about memorizing this. You can definitely use it, but don't worry about memorizing it because I'm not going to have you memorize. I'm going to show you how to do this just thinking about it, or at least being able to put it on paper. So the distance formula is this, and it really comes from the Pythagorean theorem of a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's because a is x2 minus x1. And if you remember, this just means the second x minus the first x. So this is the same thing as a plus b then is our y's, y2 minus y1. Sorry, I forgot I need to be writing that in cursive. Equals c squared. And to get rid of a square, we use the square root, and that's where this comes from. So really, d for distance is our length of c of a right triangle, where c is the hypotenuse. So again, this is just your introduction. It's a very rough introduction. This is not meant for you to know exactly how to do this, but we have two ways of doing this, and they both actually stem from this idea. And that is this. I can plug in my second x. So if this is x and this is y, then this is x and this is y. Well, here's my first x, so I'm just going to label it that. Here's my second y, or my first y, so I'm going to label that. Here's my second x and my second y. Now I just kind of line them up. This -4 is my second x, so it actually goes in first. So I'm going to take -4 minus, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to find 1 squared plus. Then we have our second y, or y2, is -2, minus 5, because that's where our y1 is. Now from here, I'm going to take a -4 minus 1 is -5, plus -2 minus 5 is -7 squared. Don't forget that square root. And I'm going to continue solving. So -5 times -5 is going to be positive 25. Plus -7 times -7 is going to be positive 49. Still under that square root. And here I'm going to get 7 square root of 74. Now let's check my math just in this last part. 25 plus 49 equals 74. Now I can keep my answer here. You'll learn how to simplify this answer at a later time. I could estimate, but it doesn't tell me to find to the nearest tenth or anything, nearest integer or anything like that. So this right here, square root of 74, I would accept as your final answer. Now here's how we would be able to do that, just thinking about it. What we have to do is be able to think of this as a triangle. So if I'm starting on a graph, let's say I have my graph like this, and I'm going to go to 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. There's my first point, right? Well, then I've got a second point at -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 down. Now, this is going to be a perfect drawing, but we can still use what we have. What it's asking is, what is the length of the line between these 2 points? That's the distance between the points. Well, this should look eerily familiar in the idea that we can now use the idea of slope to sit there and do rise. How far do I have to go up? So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I go up 7 times. And then how many times do I go over? I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, because that was a larger gap there. So I went over 5, and I went up 7 to get from one point to the other, and we're asking, what is this triangle? Well, since I went straight up and I went straight over, this has to be a 90-degree angle. Therefore, this is it falls within the Pythagorean theorem. So what I could do is I could use I like to use my smaller number as my a, so 5 squared plus 7 squared, and that's going to be equal to c squared. Now, if you notice, that's pretty much what we had here. They're just both negatives, but when we square them, 25 plus 49 equals c squared, which is the same thing I had here. So when I do solve that, I am going to get 74 equals c squared, which means I still got to get rid of that square. And to do that, I take the square root of both sides, and the 2 that's invisible here cancels the 2 there, leaving me just with c. And here I get the square root of 74. So I get the same answer both ways. So I can do this by creating a triangle, using the slope to find the length of my sides, to then plug into the Pythagorean theorem, since I now know both sides, to find the length of the third. Or I do have a distance formula that will get me there as well. Again, you don't have to memorize this. You don't even have to use it. I like to introduce it now because you will be asked to memorize it and use it later on in 8th grade or overall in algebra. If you have any questions, make sure to email those to me. Stay safe out there, guys. We'll see you next class.